discussion.
Yeah, oh, yeah. I mean, like, say it's an hour strip. I mean, like I said, the first, that for sale sign, no one had the numbers on it. Oh, yeah. Can I have your attention, please? We'll be starting up shortly. Good evening, and welcome to the December 1st, 2014 Lowell Planning Board meeting, and happy holidays to all. Tonight, we do have two public hearings and a new business which came up from an old discussion. So the first matter we have is a site plan review and a special permit request for 1514 Gorham Street. A public hearing will be held to hear all interested persons relative to an application by Lexington Development Group, LLC, seeking site plan review approval and a special permit for development of a mixed-use complex at the above address. The proposal consists of construction of 4,368 square foot building containing one commercial office unit and several residential units, with associated parking areas, stormwater system, driveways, and utilities. The applicant is seeking site plan review and special permit approval under sections 11.3, 11.4, and 12.1E of the city's zoning ordinance. The partial and total compromises approximately 32,731 square feet of land and is located in the suburban mixed-use zoning district. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, James Flood, 549 Rogers Street, Lowell, representing Lexington Development Group, LLC. With me tonight is Rob Burge, who's the principal, Steve Stratford, who's his broker, and I have Joe Pesnola and Brian Gaudreau from Hancock Associates. If you recall, Lexington Development Group, LLC is also the developer of the 1400 site, which is just down the road from this one. As the notice says, the land upon which we're proposing to develop contains approximately 32,731 square feet and is presently zoned SMU. We're asking for one additional special permit tonight, and has to do with the lot width requirement under 5.10. Wasn't included in the original application, but I did make the request by letter to Mr. Linehan dated October 1st. So we're asking for that. We're asking for site plan approval under 11.4 and another special permit for 3 to 6 units under 12.1E. The original proposal that was submitted to this board consisted of 7 residential units and 1 commercial unit. After filing, we met with various City of Lowell department heads to discuss the project. And based on that meeting, the proposed project was reduced by 1 residential unit down to 6 and 1 commercial unit. There were also additional changes made as a result of that meeting, which have been incorporated in the plan. I'd first want to address the lot width issue. As the board is aware, section 5.1.10 provides that in an SMU district, each lot shall have a width of not less than 80% of the required frontage at all points of the lot. Although this request wasn't included, I did send a letter to Mr. Linehan on October 1st requesting this additional special permit, and on our posting on the site, that request was also noted. If you have the plans, the lot is shown on the existing condition plan. And as you can see, it has a constant width of 65 feet from Gorham Street down until it meets 495. The point it meets 495, it was cut off by a taking for the construction of the road, and it goes up to a point. So when you get down to that point, we don't have the 80% of required frontage. The required frontage in an SMU district for a multi-use development is 25 feet, so 80% would be 20, which when it comes to the point, we don't have it. But the whole area of the development is 65 feet, and it goes considerably past that down to 495. So basically, the lot is 65 feet in width all the way down. And there's nothing we can do with the taking for 495. But the plan, as I said, that we submitted, that you have tonight is a little different. And I just want to go over some of those changes. I think there's a letter from Hancock Associates that summarizes those, but I just want to outline them for the record, and then Joe Pesnola is going to speak on behalf of the engineering department as to these changes. The density, like I said, it was reduced from 7 residential units down to 6 residential units, and also the size of the unit has changed. The depth has been reduced, and the width has been extended, and the floor and the footprint of the building has not changed, it's been maintained. But the size of the units have been reduced in depth. Parking, with the reduction of the units, the parking requirement is also reduced from 17 down to 16. And with the expansion of the width of the units, we were able to provide inside for rollout bins for trash pickup. So that takes away the requirement for a trash receptacle down at the end of the parking lot. So we're going to remove that, which provides for another parking lot. When it's all said and done, we're required to have 16 parking spaces. We now have 19. There are 2 for the commercial unit and the 2-car garage underneath. Every residential unit has a 1-car garage for parking in the garage. There are 3 additional spaces adjacent to the proposed commercial unit, and now there are 8 spaces down adjacent to the 6th unit. Meeting with the city planning department, there was a lot of discussion as to the architectural design of the building. A lot of it had to do with the facade facing Gorham Street, and then there was some discussion about the windows and the location of the units and the garages of the building. So you have I think you have a new architectural plan that was submitted. I think it was dated, it was last week, November 17th. And that's the plan that we propose to go with. I think that incorporates just about all of the requests for change that the planning department made, and I'm sure Judy can confirm that. I don't know did they get copies of the thing? So, I mean, we flip-flopped the units so the garages would come together. We've added windows to the facade facing Gorham Street as requested. And I think you'll find that we've done everything that they asked. We've changed the location of the retaining wall. We've moved it back approximately 10 feet, which gives us more room for snow storage. We've submitted a landscape plan, which wasn't in the original submission. And like I said, the trash receptacle is being removed, which is going to become a parking space. The project will be developed as a rental project. It's not a condominium. And it shall be maintained by Lexington Development LLC. It is Mr. Burge's intention at this time is to the commercial unit. The first floor would be used as a real estate office for the sale of the 1,400 units, and the second floor would be used as an office for his maintenance company. He's going to maintain this development, he's going to maintain 1,400, and he has numerous rental units within the city, so he's going to be able to maintain his office in that commercial unit. There was some discussion about, well, it could be changed at a later date. We're more than willing to put a declaration of restrictions on that unit that'll always remain a commercial unit, never can become a residential unit. So that's not a problem at all. The plan before you tonight does conform with all dimensional requirements of the City of Lowell zoning ordinance. And it's our feeling that it also conforms with the neighborhood. It's a multifamily building both on the left and on the right. On the left, I think there are 54 condominium units in the veterinarian's office. On the right, I think there are 26 units in the condominium, right? So the whole area in this is multifamily. We feel that by developing on this site, I guess there's been a lot of dumping in the past. I think the planning department went out to look at the site to see what was done. The development's going to stop that. I think in my narrative, I've outlined how it meets all of your requirements. We've met with the fire department. We've met with all the city departments. We've met all the concerns. So we're asking that you approve this development. I'm going to turn it over to Joe, and he can go over the engineering. And we're here to answer any questions that you might have.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. Again, for the record, Joe Pesnola with Hancock Associates. As far as the engineering on this, it's fairly straightforward. The lot pitches from front to back, if you will. We're going to work with that topography and step the units as we move backward. One of the changes that we made that was recommended by staff was to kind of mirror the garages and group them together so that could be more efficient. And that's how the units themselves will step kind of down the hill as we work from front to back. We do need some retaining walls along the right-hand side and along the back because we can't go too steep. And at the back, that gives us a good limit of construction, if you will, between us and the wetlands. There was another recommendation that we pull all development back 50 feet from the wetlands. We did that. So really all we have between the retaining wall and the wetlands is just a drainage outfall, which really won't see much in the way of water. We did do soil testing on site, and we have proposed a fully compliant stormwater management system, simple system which collects the runoff down towards the back parking lot where there's 7, now 8 spaces. And that will go into an infiltration system that will fully treat the water and recharge the water back into the ground at or more than existing rates. We did do soil testing, found really good sands out there, so it's very conducive to infiltration. So as I said, we're almost fully containing up to the 100-year storm on site with a small amount of discharge in that large storm to the wetlands. All the utilities will be taken in off of Gorham Street. We've got a standard curb cut there. Enter onto the site where it would have 3 parking spaces, 1 handicap, which is what we require, and 2 surface spaces, and then the 2 spaces that are garage for the commercial unit. There was a concern with the original design that there really wasn't enough visibility or opportunity for the residents pulling out of their garages to see anybody that was in the drive aisle. So what we did is narrowed the units down to 23 feet, provided a wider overall area from right to left of 29 feet. So we've got the compliant 20-foot aisle, and then we'll develop these kind of combination landscape doorstep areas, which will do 2 things. It'll give some opportunity for landscaping, some opportunity for the rollout trash containers, give a sense of entry, a sense of or protection for the pedestrian moving into the unit, and also directly on point address that concern with the ability for the car to come out to the point where they can then see anybody in the that would be in the drive aisle. Other than that, we are in receipt of the city engineer's memorandum of October 20th, and by and large, all those comments or conditions are appropriate. and I think appropriate for conditions should this board choose to approve the project. We've, as Attorney Flood said, we've worked closely with Ms. Timon and staff to make two rounds of changes, one round of changes on the site plan themselves, and I think 2 iterations on the architecturals. So, be happy to answer any questions the board would have regarding the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Nobody else from the applicant want to speak at this time? No? Okay. Anybody here want to speak in favor of this project? In favor? You want to speak in favor? In favor? Hearing none? At this point, I'll turn around. Anybody want to speak in opposition? Yes. Just come to the microphone, please. State your name and address.
Hello. Yeah, my name is John Gorassi, and I live at 1524 Gorham Street. And just to add a little historical perspective, I've been there just over 14 years, and I'm not sure how many people are aware, but I'd say roughly 10, 12 years ago, we had an issue with the foundation of the building as directly related to soil erosion. And it basically affected the building in 2 ways. One, the building actually itself lost 2 car spots in the carports that we have. So they were lost to the units because they had to be reinforced to be built up. And secondarily, each unit was assessed roughly $6,000. And if one's wondering how this might apply to this project, I'm just not sure, based with the combination of how close it is to where we live, that, you know, that might not happen again. And if it were to happen, you know, despite maybe the best efforts to not have that reoccur, but what would be in place to protect our building should such a thing, as I say, you know, happen again. So I just want to bring that up, because not only is that a concern for the actual structure, but for the people who aren't just renting, but also are owning those units. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Marie Christo, and I live at 1524 Gorham Street, and I'm actually representing my board. Also a concern is we had that retaining wall put in about 10 years ago, so my concern is where the pavement is and the drainage, and, you know, how that will impact our property. Also is the green space around the entire building on both sides, on the 1524 side, as well as the animal hospital, as well as the front and the back. It just seems like a narrow lot to have all these items, you know, this building in that space. My other concern was the dumpster, but it sounds as that plan might have changed. But, you know, the dumpster was a concern of ours as well. So in the buffer between, you know, my building and that building, and, you know, just how people are going to get in and out and park there is a concern. Thank you.
Now, what board do you represent, I'm sorry?
Fuller Farms,
Okay,
that's 1524, that's the green building.
1524, okay, yep, I got you. So that's Fuller Farm Condominium Association, is it?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Am I on the mic? Hi, my name is Diana Koretsky, and I
You want to
live...
just pull the mic down towards you, it might pick it up a little better. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Diana Koretsky. I live at 1506 Gorham Street, which is Concord Meadows Condominiums. And I'm actually representing 51 of the owners, residents of that condominium, including I am a board member myself. We have some concerns also about drainage, just like Fuller Farm does, because we are one of the low spots in that area. And it looks like the buildings are right butted up against our property line, which we share with the line up to the animal hospital. That building, there has been ponding on the lawn behind our 1508 building, which would be right behind their building, and it has damaged our foundation to our garage that we've had to do extensive repair work to over the years. So we're concerned that that will cause even further drainage issues. And also, if the erosion starts there, because we have also had erosion issues, that it's going to destabilize the whole area, and again, at least one of our buildings. There's also the concern that there may be not enough parking there. If even one resident has a party, they're going to fill up their units, their parking, spill over into the animal hospital, and even possibly over into ours. Because we have 54 units and we've had problems. And we have excess parking normally for our condominium. We think it's too much for that lot to have that much squeezed onto it. They are right up against our property line. There's a row of trees that the original design that I looked at said one tree was leaving. I can't believe that any of those trees that are right along the property line are going to stay unless they actually turn out to be on our side of the property line. If they all have to leave, there's going to be no privacy either. They're going to be looking right into the windows of one side of our condominium. And that's a concern to some people. And one of our residents who was here tonight pointed out that in 18 years, this is the first time she's seen dumping in that lot, and she has a front row view of it, being on one of those abutting units. Oh, what else do I want to say out of this? We have a driveway, I'm not sure of the width of it, between our two buildings. So I'm not sure how it compares to the newest version of theirs. But I will tell you this, when fire and emergency apparatus have had to come to our condominium, it's very tight. There have been issues with them getting in and then turning around and being able to get back out. So if they don't have a wider driveway, and I don't see how they can on that narrow a lot, that is going to be an issue. There's also no access to the back of that building except through our lot that they're planning to build. And that was a little disorganized, but I do have some things here in writing that I would like to submit for you. One being the petition and the other being our set of notes, which I probably did not get every bit of here. Thank you, yeah, thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you very much, Judy. Thank you, ma'am.
Huh?
Just kind of shows the front.
Yeah, actually, we could add this to it. There's a car parked in front of that lot, which shows you how wide a car is compared to that lot, as far as parking in front of any of those buildings or anything goes.
My name is Brian Hoey from I own Unit 106 at 1524 Gorham Street. A few issues I see with this project up there is, I know they mentioned the trash, they've removed that dumpster and going to have rollouts up there. I mean, right now the driveway up there is going to be very tight. I think the woman before me just spoke about the fire. Snow storage, and also as far as the trash, when they roll the barrels out, getting a trash truck in and out of there. A lot of 65 feet wide. To propose a project that's this size up there, I think it's much too big and much too intrusive. There's no boundary, along the boundary line there, there's no border or buffer at all up there. These units are going to be looking directly into the units of 1524, and not just into the units, but into bedrooms and into the living room. So, I mean, people's privacy up there is going to be nil. The other thing I hear when I just listen to this project be explained here, the commercial aspect of this project seems to remind me of a project down on Pawtucket Street that's going to be going on either now or shortly. The contractor who's doing that project is taking a commercial space. The contractor who's doing this project is taking a commercial space up here. To me, it sounds like, you know what, we'll build a commercial space so we can build 6 condos and make a nice profit off of it. And that's the way I look at a project like this. As far as I see it, I think the project's too large for that lot, and that's my opinion at this time. And another thing, I think we have enough project. We got 47 units proposed for 1,400. We got a number of units up at River's Edge that are still on the market for sale up there. I think there's enough residential property for sale up in that area or rent up in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name's Chris Deck. I live at 1524 Gorham Street. I'm also a representative from Fuller Farms Condominium and Trust. A lot of the issues that I have are also been mentioned tonight. The biggest one is definitely drainage. It was brought up that we spent $150,000 keeping our building intact. And that's not easy to come up with for a lot of these units, so we're really concerned about definitely the drainage issues, what's going to happen. I know the prints that they provided, which we could barely see, and they were basically on the ground, did not make it clear to the residents around them exactly where the boundaries were going to be, how the orientation was going to lay out with the existing lot lines and the clearances from the building itself. All it shows on the drawings from what I've seen is just some concrete pads on the back of our units with no clear visibility of exactly what's going to be the orientation with the units of the building. We have 14 units along that side of the building that these basically would be looking right into. I seen the drawings showing a proposed fence. I had trouble looking on there to try to find the height of the fence, the design of the fence, anything like that, or is it going to be, what's going to be done to create, the existing privacy that we have with the space that's there now. I also have lived in the property for about 10 years now, and the only dumping I've ever seen has been recently, and I believe it's a couch or something that's right there right now, besides the previous owner continuously dumping soil and dump trucks full of soil on the property to build up this property to make it available for sale. In the last couple of years, someone went in and took down all the trees and just piled it up and abandoned it and left it on Craigslist for people to come and get as freely as they wanted to. And we had to listen to chainsaws going in the middle of the night throughout the weekends just to get rid of this lumber that was piled up right across from us. The size of the building definitely just looks ridiculous for the size of the lot. It doesn't seem like it'd be a comfortable area to pull. I understand that they shrank the size of the building to accommodate a larger driveway to create more ease of use for cars pulling in and out. But now does that factor in also the location and how easily it'll be to access those garages with the retaining wall that needs to be put up against our side of the lot? And what's going to be done to protect our property while that retaining wall is being done, that's also supporting all the air conditioning units on our side of the building, our side of the property. The dumpster issue was already discussed. As of right now, our building's over 200 feet long, and with our parking lot as of now, we have trouble with snow issues. There's nowhere for us to put snow. We pay every year to have snow removed from our property, so I don't see how they're going to accommodate their storage for snow on their property to keep up with the amount of parking and the amount of drive space that's proposed on their plans. Other than that, the only thing I can see them doing with that snow is throwing it over the wall into the wetlands. So other than that, they're going to be trucking it out of there. And that gets expensive real quick. So I don't see that being an actual way that it gets handled. That's really all I can come up with offhand without seeing actual legible drawings that we could go over and look at the actual scale of everything and clearly. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Up to know if this time any board members have any questions?
Big joke, and most of those questions were engineering questions. Any joke can address.
Okay, I'll give him a chance to, if he wants to respond to that, Mr. Flood, sure. My mic on? Yeah.
As far as drainage and erosion, first, we've presented a comprehensive erosion control plan that's been reviewed by engineering staff. The contractor will have to abide by that and not have any ill effects during construction with regards to erosion, which in a modern construction site is the most important thing. Erosion controls post-construction, were a problem, but today what we do with stormwater addresses that. Because post-construction erosion has to do with what's happening with your stormwater. How are you managing it or not managing it? And 30 years ago, it wasn't managed and problems did arise. So with regard to stormwater, our system fully contains the 2-year storm, which is about 3 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. Fully contains. Takes all of the roof drainage, all of the parking lot drainage, and puts it into our system that's under the parking lot. Fully contains the 10-year storm, which is 4.5 inches of rain. In the 100-year storm, which is over 6 inches of rain in a 24-hour period, it takes just about all of it, and there's a small discharge to the rear of the property. That discharge is done in a manner that's controls velocity, scour, has a riprap area that's of sufficient size to control whatever flow that is prior to it going to the wetland. It's not directed towards other properties where it can cause any damage. So I'm confident that those two issues with regards to erosion control and long-term stormwater management are fully vetted or fully addressed through our plans and our calculations, and those plans and calculations have been vetted through the engineering department with regards to that. With regards to the access, the fire department has fully reviewed this plan. We had to provide turning templates to the city staff and the fire department to demonstrate that the fire department could get in there, demonstrate that a trash truck could get in there and turn around. So that issue's been fully vetted. And that was actually before we made the drive aisle wider. So, and before we've eliminated the dumpster. So now there's going to be even more room back there for that. We have addressed the snow storage issue. We have an area at the front of the lot, just to the north of the 3 spaces, that will take that area, the balance of the drive aisle and the 7-8 spaces in the back. We've pulled the retaining wall back and given an area for that snow storage. That area will be pitched back towards our property, so during snow melt, that'll get back into our drainage system for treatment and recharge, so that snow melt's not doesn't become an erosive issue. With regard to the fence, we're calling for a standard 6-foot fence, but that is atop a 3.5 foot retaining wall, so proximate or from the view of 1524, they're getting 9.5 feet of opaque barrier, if you will. As I said, we did full soil testing out there. We understand the nature of the soils. That information is on our plans and will be shared with the contractor, so they understand what measures to take during construction to control that. Lastly, with regards to parking, with the 8th space added in the back, where we've got 19 spaces and zoning requires 16.
Thank you.
Brian,
Okay, any of the board members have any questions at this time? Yeah, Mr. Lockhart, start with you if you don't mind.
Just a couple, on a memorandum from Judy, time and dated October 20th to us, actually it's from Lisa DeMayo, the city engineer, sorry, to Judy. Made a few comments here on a list of items. The second item appearing, it says, "No open space play area is provided." And I'm just a little concerned about the density of the project. Is there any space there for any kind of a play area or anything? With nothing available around it to any degree?
We didn't provide for any, Mr. Lockhart. There's only 6 units, and, there's a little liability with the play area anyway,
Yeah,
so.
all right, okay.
So that's why we really didn't want
Always
to do it.
nice to see that, and, it's always good around. Based on Joe's comments here, again, a reference October 17th memorandum from Judy to us. Item 3, relative to engineering department, is questioned the need for the riprap swale designed as an overflow outlet for the underground stormwater system, and that the riprap presents a possible maintenance and nuisance problem. I assume that based on his comments,
Can you answer that?
you've discussed that with him, that's cleared? Or you come to some kind of agreement?
I think it's just a question as to whether we need the riprap,
Yeah, that's
because
what it
we've got
sounds
almost no output, and the soils are sandy. It's just good engineering practice to have it there as a brake for velocity. I agree with Judy that, riprap areas can be a maintenance issue, in which, weeds and such grow up within it. The whole question would be, if it wasn't needed, why would maintenance be an issue if weeds did grow up? It would still somewhat serve its purpose to be able to get the water, to break the velocity and not have the water shoot out towards the wetlands. But again, we're not talking about a lot of water fully contained for the 3 inches of rain, the 4.5 inches of rain.
Right.
So.
Okay, and just one other thing regarding the retaining walls. We've got a new retaining wall being built at the rear of the site,
Yes.
and there's some adjacent property that has a deteriorated wall. Could you just step us through where those are and what the plans are regarding that? I know some of the abutters have a concern there, and just like some clarification on that whole thing. And I guess snow storage enters into that as well. turn so the audience can see it?
So the retaining wall against 1524 starts about midway. It's obviously, when you start a retaining wall, it's short, and then it grows. We try to, again, work with the topography. So as we're moving down the site, it's not constantly getting higher. It changes. It goes from 3.5 feet to 9 feet, back to 6 feet, and then down to 3 feet at the corner. So along this area, it varies in height. Turns the corner and comes across the back, and then returns up a short distance up the other side of the project. So what we envision in this area is a wall that has an integrated guardrail to it, so it's structurally sound to take any impact should a car veer into it. And then behind that, again, the 6-foot fence. So it's a solid barrier, if you will, both from vehicles and a visual barrier to that. As far as snow storage, again, we move the wall back, and we've got snow storage on the backside there and snow storage over in here. We think it's sufficient for normal storms. Like any site, if we've got large back-to-back storms, just like one of the gentlemen said, they'll have to remove it from the site if it becomes a nuisance. We would welcome any conditions that would speak to that, as well as conditions that would preclude us from dumping it into the wetlands. As we know, the City Conservation Commission wouldn't like that. And we could even put signage up to that effect to alert the snowplow drivers not to do that. I've also seen measures where fencing will be put up with signage that stops that from happening.
Just on that point, Mr. Lockhart, I think in my narrative, I did state that in the event of an excess snow event, we will remove it from site, so it's right in there.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned. I was more concerned really about your butters and an existing wall that exists. I'm not sure how you impact that at all, Joe. This wall that's
We
deteriorating.
wouldn't, the way that this will proceed as far as construction, we would delineate the boundary through survey, mark that delineation, and then the contractor would put up any erosion control. The retaining wall hasn't been designed, but the retaining wall, because it exceeds 4 feet in some places, would have to be designed by a structural engineer, and those plans would have to be submitted to the building commissioner for review. And those would have to include details of how the guardrail would be integrated with that to again withstand any action by the vehicles. So the integrity of our wall and the structural design of our wall makes sure that nothing crosses our property line, which therefore will not impact anything that's off the property, either from erosion or actual physical encroachment.
Okay, I guess. All right, that's all I have.
Mr. Fischett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Pesnola, just briefly, on the northern side of this site, which would be the back of these units, what is the distance from the rear of the units to these lot line?
It's 9.9 or 10 feet essentially from there to the residential units. And then there's, it's a 5-foot dimension to the main commercial space, which is 30 by 28. And there's a utility closet that'll just be a lean-to, a 1-story lean-to on the back where the fire suppression sprinkler systems, that's where the water lines will come in. And that's 2 feet off the property. And in this zone, as you know, there is no setback requirement.
Well, that's a good segue for what I'm grappling with here on the SMU zone. And just if everyone can follow me, and Attorney Flood, I'm sure you'll have an opinion on what I'm viewing here. But in the SMU zone for residential dwellings, it's a 20-foot side yard setback. And I don't think anybody will disagree with that. And if you're abutting a residential district, it's a 15-foot zone, regardless of what you're building within the SMU zone. We have 2 lots that are within the SMU zone. You know, this is a townhouse development, condo townhouse development. And if it wasn't, you know, we've got a commercial unit at the front, well, quite frankly, that's, you know, it's represents 14% of the development. The rest of that development is residential. But basically what we're saying is, well, oh no, we've made it a mixed-use property, now it falls under all other uses. But the majority use of that property is residential use. I don't know, I mean, I think we could get a couple of attorneys argue over where this falls into the zoning, but I do have some real concern with that. And it'd be one thing if this was built to look like a commercial building with residential apartments up above, and it was 1 unit in the middle of the property, but it really is townhouse condos with a commercial unit stuck on the end to basically say it falls under all other uses. But I mean, we've got 6 units that are residential use here.
That's right, but it's an SMU district, Christopher Shedd. You know, suburban mixed use. We do have a mixed use. It's a city zoning.
Well, I understand.
And
I was
think
in on
we
the very
can
beginning on this, Mr. Flood, and
conform-
we had issues with this, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, I think it's our position that we do conform to zoning. We have a legitimate use for the commercial property because he's developing up the street, and that was the whole basis of it. We have worked with the city. We've agreed to put a condition on the residential that it will not, on the commercial, it will not be transferred to residential, but, so it will always be commercial.
Well, I would not want to see this be individual condominium units anytime in the future either, because then they become individual residential units, and that's not the spirit of this at all. And, you know, we ran into this in the regional retail on Middlesex Street where condominiums went in, and you're dealing with the conflicting interests of the abutters. And, you know, right now, you talk about the neighborhood character. The true neighborhood character are homes, really single-family homes, and the veterinary hospital next door looks like a single-family home. And we've got these 2 apartment buildings that, one in the back, one in the rear, and we've got the one on the other side. But, you know, townhouse condominiums in sideways on there is not the character of that neighborhood. So I just, you know, I don't think the spirit in which this was designed is not really captured here. And I guess we could argue the technicality of the mixed use, but for the most part, this is a residential development with that unit stuck in there. And I think one gentleman used as an example what was going on Pawtucket Street. That's a beautiful building where it really looks like a mixed-use commercial building. This looks like a residential condominium development. That's what it looks like. And then we're going to be dealing with potential conflicts with, you know, if the animal hospital goes away, and that's in an SMU zone, they can build a commercial development or retail development that's right up to the property line, right behind these residential condominiums. I just don't think that's the proper application in this particular case.
Well, I mean, it was designed based on zoning. He had a use for a commercial site to market his other development. Plus, he's in the maintenance business, he's in the landscaping business, he maintains his other property in the city, so we thought it was a,
And I can
Fit.
appreciate that, I understand that.
and, you know, we tried to, there's no question it's a narrow lot, but I don't think we should be stopped from developing it, especially where we do conform.
I don't think so either, but I think it really would be more conducive to something that looked like the animal hospital that was situated in the middle of that property with apartments up above and the office beneath, and it would fit into what's right next door, what's
Well,
across the street.
I mean, the whole gist of meeting with the plan, they wanted us to change the facade on the Gorham Street site to make it look like a
Well,
commercial
because you
use.
presented a sideways condominium development. That's what you presented, and I mean, Joe can talk to this. We grappled with that for years as to, at least have whatever's facing the street be a facade. But that's why, DPD was trying to work with that. And, and I can appreciate the narrowing of the building and elimination of a unit and trying to work with staff to kind of address their concerns. But, under the special permit, I mean, part of it is neighborhood character. And, as I sit here right now, I just don't see this development meeting the spirit of that.
Well, I mean, this is a picture of the neighborhood, look at all around it is apartment buildings and commercial.
There's apartment building in the rear, which you can't even see from the street, and there's one next door.
Yep, there's
The
two
rest of it
buildings,
doesn't look like that.
two buildings on the side, then there's churches up the street. I don't think there's, on this side of the street, until you get up to River's Edge, I don't think there's much residential.
And directly across the street is all residential.
Correct, across the street, there's no question. But right around it, it's all multifamily.
I'm not questioning the multifamily, I'm questioning how this sits on that lot. Well, that's my concern with this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Boyle?
Yes, if I can pick up a little on what Mr. Frechette began with, the side yard setback. I'm looking at the table of dimensional uses, other residential dwellings, minimum yard setback 20 feet. Why don't you need a 20-foot setback from your residential units?
I think on all other uses, there's no setback side yard.
SMU, other residential dwellings.
Yeah, but the whole development is a mixed use.
So it's your contention that you don't have a
Correct.
residential use. You have the whole thing as a mixed use.
Correct, it's a mixed-use development. I didn't draft the zoning, Mr. Boyle, but that's the way it's worded.
And I think this is where it goes to another point Mr. Frechette raised. When we talk about a mixed-use building, generally think of, for example, storefronts on the bottom and apartments above. Now, in a situation like that, the intent was to have, okay, you don't need to have a side yard setback for a development like that, but if you were having residential all the way, then you would have to have the side yard setback, because it's all one building. The footprint of the residential area and the footprint of the commercial area is the same footprint, and that's a mixed use. This is the townhouses. That section is entirely residential. You have a residential use attached to, vertically attached to, sitting next to, sharing a common wall with a commercial use. But the townhouses are all residential.
Yeah,
But
the project is mixed use.
the project is mixed use.
I mean, are you saying that if we put a residential unit above the commercial unit in the first, you'd think of it differently?
Yes, I am saying that if you had multi-stories, commercial below and residential above, I would think of that differently than if you had, than with what you have here, which is the commercial here and then residential sticking
What I'm
off of it.
saying, we have a commercial use on the first floor of this building, and then we put an apartment on the second building, on the second floor, would you think differently?
If you had that, you would need to meet the, that would fall under all other uses.
Yep.
And you would have to meet the setbacks, or actually, in this case, the non-setbacks for the all other uses. But it seems like where these are so, where these uses are so separate that you should need to meet, it just seems you should be meeting the commercial setbacks, the all other uses setbacks for the commercial, and the residential setbacks for the residential portion, because there actually is a residential portion and a commercial portion.
What does 12.1E say?
12.1E.
It says,
Good
what does it
question.
say?
What
Three
does
to, 3 to
12.1E?
6, or maybe that had 7, in conjunction with a commercial use.
Good question. Let me find it and read it. 12.1E. That's the table? Okay.
12.1E is what I filed on, because it was 7 units then, now it's down to 6, so.
7 or more units, okay, so we should go to D now. 4 to 6 dwelling units on one lot in combination of single-family detached dwelling units, attached or semi-detached dwelling units, multifamily structures, townhouses, or as part of a mixed-use project with other uses allowed in the district.
Yeah. So the commercial use that we are proposing is allowed in the district.
The
And it's
heading-
combined with the residential.
The heading of this section that you had just asked me to read is residential uses,
Yeah?
which means, according to this language you just had me read, even when these townhouses are as part of a mixed-use project with other uses allowed in the district, these are still residential uses, according to...
It's a mixed use, and it's not completely residential. I mean, I'm just interpreting, my interpretation of the zoning says this is permitted.
Yes,
The way that we have it in front of you tonight. It's
yes.
permitted. Now, your interpretation, I guess, is a little different.
My interpretation is not yet complete. I'm not certain I have an interpretation of this yet. What I am certain is that I'm not nearly as certain that you're right. Okay, I think this question needs some, Judy, has this come up with a question for staff here? Has this come up within the DPD, and has a zoning ruling been made?
The staff did discuss the setback issue and where this project fit into the table of uses, and also we discussed the SMU zone itself. It is defined, SMU is defined in the zoning as a commercial zone. So in that respect, the residential condos that are on the abutting lots, they exist on lots that are already in what we define as a commercial zone, not a residential zone. SMU, all the mixed-use zones that we have are defined in the zoning as commercial.
Yes, the SMU is a commercial district,
Yep.
that's right. But the question that I think we need to get at is whether these townhouses are considered a residential use. And what I did not hear is whether that question has been taken up by the DPD and the law department.
Well, we did not consult with the law department, but because the project does propose in the same building 2 different uses, a commercial use and a residential use in the same building. It's not situated above, it's situated in the same building, so that we considered a mixed use.
Okay, I want to read this out loud again. 12.1, residential uses. 4 to 6 dwelling units on one lot in any combination of single-family detached dwelling units, attached or semi-detached dwelling units, multifamily structures, townhouses, or as part of a mixed-use project with other uses allowed in the district, including townhouse developments. It's a residential, 4 to 6 dwelling units are a residential use as part of, including when they are, as part of a mixed-use project with other uses allowed in the district.
But
That reading that makes me think that these are residential uses. We flip back to the table of
What that
dimension
sec-
requirements, type of use, other residential dwellings, okay? That would seem to be the type of use of the townhouses.
what that section 12.1E provides, so it says we need a special permit under Article 12, which neighborhood character. The setback, as Judy said, they consider an SMU not a residential district, but another use, and that's why we don't have the setback. We're talking two different sections here.
Yes.
Section, is it 5 on the setback? So, I'm saying we conform with the setbacks, and I feel that, what we're putting in there conforms with the neighborhood.
So okay. So if you had only proposed 6 townhouses on this lot, they would have to meet, they would be a residential use that has to meet the 20-foot setback. Because you attach them to a commercial building, those same 6 townhouses cease to be a residential use, become part of an all other uses, and have to meet the all other uses non-setback. Is that right? Is that your?
Part of the commercial, with all the uses. What if we had 5 commercial units and 1 residential? The same thing. So, I don't think you want a mechanic's garage down there or 6 commercial units. I think this is better for the neighborhood the way it is, but that's the way the zoning is written, and that's the way we interpreted it.
Yes, and I can see how this isn't, how this is a question that requires some interpretation and consideration. It's not obvious on its face. Okay, I'm not entirely clear on this, and think I need some guidance from staff, from DPD, possibly the law office, the city solicitor's office as well, on how to read this. Okay, my second question. I'm confused about the property ownership here. This strip of land that's shown on your plan, the Vigilant Revocable Trust, looks like it's about 30 feet wide going back and then opens up. Is that in common ownership with any of the other abutting properties?
I think it has something to do with the other condominium in the back. I don't know. You're talking the Vision piece?
Yes, the Vigilant strip.
I have the common ownership with what? The condominiums? I have a plan.
Common ownership with anything whatsoever, I'm not sure. See, this is your
Yeah.
evidence piece.
Yep.
And this goes with this, and
There are-
what does this go with? Anything?
Nothing. There are easements across it, though.
Okay.
I think I have a plan of the condominium here someplace that shows it.
Okay, that seems to answer this lady's question about the trees. How can they only be taking down 1 tree? The answer to that is that the applicant's property doesn't actually abut your property. There's a 30-foot strip of land, and those trees are on that 30-foot strip of land, not on the applicant's property.
The trees have to stay.
Yeah, we can't touch anything on that
It's not their
property.
land, they can't touch it. Okay. Okay.
It's us that they're really pushing the abutment on. Our 1508 building is the one that they're pushing up. There's a very thin line and that easement strip with trees on it.
I'm sorry, I might be confused. I'm referring to the north side of the property, away from,
Meadows condominiums, 1508 and 1506 Gorham. That building that's on the other side of that strip of the trees is our 1508 building.
Okay.
Right behind the animal hospital.
Right, okay, yes. Okay.
Yeah, that doesn't,
Yeah. Okay. Another question I had, this abutter had mentioned a concern about the dumpster, but you thought that that had been taken care of. Could you elaborate a little bit on what your questions were?
We are located on that property, but it sounds like they.
We've taken it out.
They're gonna have to roll it in.
They have roll-out bins, you can have a private pickup.
Okay, okay.
It was shown on the plan down near the parking area,
Yes, in the far southeastern corner of the site, you've got a.
so that's
okay.
coming out.
And that, you're not going to have this now? You're not going to have any sort of a dumpster area on the site at
They're
all?
gonna be in their garage, they're gonna put it like curbside pickup.
Into the curbs, okay. All right. All right. The other issue I wanted to bring up was about the parking and the fire access. There is one indoor garage space provided for each unit, and then there is a parking lot in the back where everybody has their second parking space.
Correct.
It looks to me like from unit number one, their second parking space is over 100 feet away. And then there's the 20-foot wide driveway, which is going to be striped and marked as a fire lane with no parking. And the counselor will raise his right hand and swear to me that nobody is going to park in that, and people in Unit 1 are not going to park in front of their unit and are going to drive and then walk 100 feet and never block that, and I just don't buy that. I think the second parking spaces for the units closer to the front are just too far away there, and there are very likely to be cars parked along this driveway, and it's an inherent problem with this design choice that I don't think we're going to get around with signs and striping. I don't have a lot of faith in signs and striping. I think this is a serious flaw with the design of having all of the units in one row. It might or might not be possible to address my concern here by splitting up the project into a number of buildings, and then having a couple of smaller parking areas that are closer to the front, closer to each individual building. For example, having the commercial building, then a little parking area behind it, 2 units, little parking area, 2 units, and then perhaps 2 more units all the way in the back, facing towards the front as opposed to facing sideways. Maybe there's something that could be done with a design like that. Maybe there isn't. I really don't think that that this concern is likely to be addressed without a significant design change.
Without what, Joe?
A significant design change. The basic idea of having their second parking space 100 feet away, I just don't think it's going to
I
work.
think under the zoning, as long as we provide it on the same lot, that's sufficient. When you see that in a lot of the condominiums, a lot of the apartment buildings, they're on the same lot or they're across the street. That's permitted under our zoning. We met, the fire department was at that meeting on September 26th. We discussed the driveway. They were satisfied with the 20-foot width. The only thing they wanted, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Judy, they wanted another hydrant, which we agreed to put in. The building's going to be sprinkled, so they had no concern about that. So we satisfied the fire department, which was my major concern.
It's a question of access for the fire trucks. It's also a question of the usefulness for the residents. If there's snowbanks if it's narrowed at all by snow and somebody has their car there, this is supposed to be used as a two-way.
Well, that's why he's going to be there. He's going to manage it. It's his building. He'll tell them he'll tow their cars if they park there. I mean, he's the owner. He's going to be there.
That's actually a good point. This is true. There's likely to be a higher level of on-site management than in a lot of townhouse projects like this. Okay. I'm sorry, who was that?
I
was just wondering as we were talking. No, okay.
Okay. Okay. All right, I'm done for now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, the only area I have a problem with is the paved driveway right up to the property line of the other. That brings it really close, heading south, the south side of the lot. It's abutting the Fuller Farm condos. There's not a lot of wiggle room there between
2 feet off.
2 feet away.
Yeah. 3 feet.
And you said could be up to 9.5 feet high, the fence, with a fence on top of it?
I think we have to be 3 feet off on the driveway anyways from the property line. I think that's under zoning. So that's why it is.
And we already discussed the Fidget strip of land, which is really not abutting the other condo development.
There's a strip like 25 feet down, and then it shoots off. I have a copy of the plan for the condo that shows it.
Yeah, and that means that it doesn't directly abut the condo development to the
Oh,
north.
there's a strip in between, yeah.
So there should be a buffer there.
Whatever's there now, I don't know if you can tell from that picture. Yeah, there's trees there. It won't be touched.
Did you just say the driveway is 2 feet off the lot line?
3 feet,
3 feet, you meant the 3 feet, okay.
that's required.
You made 110, right.
Okay. I don't have any other questions that haven't been discussed already.
Yes, sir, you had a question? Come to the microphone, state your name and address on the question.
Yes, sir.
Could you state your name and address effectively?
My name is Ken Blauvelt. I'm an owner at 1508 Gorham Street. I had actually a couple of questions. They show areas where they're going to store the snow. I'm just wondering how that process is going to take place if you have that lot filled with cars. How are they actually going to, how do you physically get the snow into the areas that are apparently behind the parked cars? And secondly, we've talked about a lot about this commercial building, and as far as parking goes, I'm just wondering where these clients that are going to this commercial building are gonna park. Are they gonna be lined up down Gorham Street? Is that the only, because I can't see any other place where clients that need to use this commercial building, where are they gonna park? I know anybody who lives there knows that that stretch of 3A is pretty dangerous. They come up over the highway bridge and they're shooting down there, and particularly in the winter, if you have clients parked out there on Gorham Street, I don't see how the plowing's gonna take place, or I can see how it's gonna be a problem. Maybe there's some plan for parking clients, I don't know, but I didn't see it on the plan. And again, the snow issue, I find it hard. I can't see how they're gonna manage the snow
Two underneath.
without, I suppose, having everybody move out every time there's a snowstorm so they can plow down into that back lot.
Okay.
That's all. It's just,
You want to address that, Bob?
So the way we're going to address I'm Rob Burge, I'm the owner of Lexington Development Group. The way we're going to address the snow removal, having the garage space that we're using for the commercial use, we'll have bobcats in there, probably at least 1 or 2. Those machines will be used for clearing the snow during the construction over at 1,400 Motors, which I'll be doing, and also for the rental complex at 1514 Gorham. Snow will be pushed off, put on the grassy areas and so on. If it needs to be removed out of there, which we do on other properties that we own in the community, We have a 10-wheeler, we remove the snow from the property. And that's pretty much how it will be done. It will obviously be done with trucks until it gets to a point where there's too much snow. Bobcats will be brought out and utilized for the snow removal, which is a common practice throughout the city and other complexes, commercial and both residential.
Any other questions? You want to know where the people would be to visit the business park?
There's 3 spaces to the left of it, Tom. 3 spaces to the left. And like I said, it's his maintenance company on the top floor, and then there'd be, you know, brokers. It'd be great if he'd have a bunch of sales all at one time, but, you know how that happens. So I think there's more than sufficient parking. We need 4 spaces for the commercial. There's 5 in that area.
Chairman's microphone. Your mic?
Thank you.
Any board members have any other further questions? Rich, anything else?
No, I have nothing.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one
Sure.
question. I just wanted to have qualified, the tree line that we were talking about that abuts the Concord Meadows condominium, the land that is in trust on the existing conditions, it shows trees and a tree line on the applicant's property. It doesn't show trees on that trust piece of land. All the tree line is actually on the applicant's property. So will all of those trees be cleared? And if there are trees within that small trust parcel, they're not shown on the existing conditions plan.
Flip to the existing conditions.
There's a tree line.
No trees there, and we indicate
Joe, your mic's not on. Okay.
So just to the north, there, the parking lot for the animal hospital is right there, and that's pretty much on the property line. As we indicate on our existing conditions plan, the edge of pavement, it's not parallel to the property line. It kind of diverges from there. And we do indicate that the tree line here, but then the tree line cuts out here, and all of that is treed for the balance. So the first couple hundred feet where the parking lot is, there may be 1 or 2 trees up front that could be saved. There's definitely a tree right here, right about here, that appears to be in between the property line and the parking lot that's not on our property that would be saved. And then once you get to the back of the parking lot, which is really where we get into the view shed for 1508, all of that is treed, and those are not on our property and therefore will be retained.
Everyone who's been out to the site, I'm sure you'd agree, it's very tough to tell what's what and where the property lines end. It would be easier, much easier to make these judgment calls if we could go there and see boundary markers of some kind.
That's on their property, not on our property. Not on your property. Can't touch it.
Sure. Come to the microphone. Just come to the microphone and state your name again, please. Thank you.
Hi, Marie Christo. I actually live on the second floor, about halfway down the building, facing the animal hospital or facing this block of land. Do we know who owns that strip of trees on that side? Because currently, like May through October, I look at trees, I can't even see the animal hospital. So who owns those trees? Do we know that? Does Fuller Farms own those trees, or?
That's some back here.
Along this line here. There's a line of trees from the street that go all the way back.
She's talking full front.
This is all trees.
That's where the retaining wall's proposed to be.
Right. So are those trees gone, or those our trees, or your trees? That's the difference. They are trees. So instead of having all those trees there, we're gonna have a opaque fence and a retaining wall.
You won't, first floor. I had a question also.
Sure.
I'm also with Fuller Farms. My question is, we're making the assumption on the fact that they're going to be using this office space. They seem like a very aggressive company. How long will they be in this office space? If that's the card that they're going to keep using, is that they're going to be occupying the property, especially to make sure that no one's parking in the fire lane, and they're going to be on site. I've seen tons of companies come in and they use an office space until the project's done, then they move on with the next project. Maintenance companies can be run out of a storage garage down the street and turn a profit on a rental property, which would be, an option also. So is there some sort of guarantee that that the owners will occupy this office space, and what kind of use will be done there? Like you said, they own landscaping business also. So does that mean we'll be listening to lawnmowers and everything, and what kind of use will that be on the first floor? And how that will transform over time as the company grows and moves on. Thank you.
To answer part of that question is, we can't guarantee who's going to stay there. No. That's, if they come before us, they meet the zoning, that's the criteria, they say it's going to maintain commercial, they're willing to indicate that we can put it in a deed requirement that it stay main commercial, but just like anybody else, you buy a piece of property, you don't like it, you want to sell it, there's nobody in the city Lowell can stop you and do it. It's actually unconstitutional. It's a form of government by us from taking, like if we took property away from you, same thing. It's against the law, so I'm just trying to answer your question.
Yep.
So the question would be for the zoning and for the site plan, we have to prove what the commercial is, whether, we know when things get approved, there's nothing to prevent anybody from selling it. Same like if I bought a piece of land, built a house, I loved it, someone comes in, offers me a big figure price, more than what I want, do I want to sell it? Yes. Can government,
Exactly.
can I finish? Okay. Can
I'm
government?
not arguing that fact, that they can move on, that's their right to
Right,
move on.
absolutely.
But their argument for the
I hear the
protection of the fire
argument,
lane was that they'll be there.
I understand that, right. I understand that, yeah. But I'm saying, to answer the question, they
Yeah,
don't
no, I
have to
agree,
stay.
one
there.
cancels
Yeah.
out the other.
Right.
Right,
Because what happens is it becomes a taking from government, and we don't have the authority to do that. I mean, today, we have to go by the set of plans and what they're saying, and we know some of these always could be enforceable, but if it's a word they're saying, I'm going to sit there and watch it, no. No, we don't, that's,
There might be enough parking there for him running the state office. Now, the next dwelling, the next business that comes in has a ton of customers. There's a large forum, and
Yeah.
a hospital, and a parking lot.
but if it meets the zoning, once it gets approved, it gets the occupancy certificate, there's not much we can do. But, so we have to prove what's in front of us tonight, what changes in the future. It still have to stay under these same conditions. If we put conditions in there, regardless of who owns the property, those conditions run with the land.
Correct, yeah.
They have to.
I just want to point one, he's made an investment in the city. He's been here for 18 years. He's got over about 100 rental units. He's not going to leave. He's going to develop 1,400 motors. He's happy with what's happening in the city, so I mean, I can't guarantee he's gonna be there forever, no one can, but it's his intention at this time.
I know, and we know as board members, because some of us have been here longer than some of the applicants have come before us. So what, basically, so we have tonight, we had 3 votes to make. One's on the site plan and 2 on 2 special permits. So what we'll do is have to take them individually. So what I'd recommend is that we vote on the site plan first, which is least restrictive in nature compared to the zoning, then do the 2 special permits.
Before the board takes any action, is there any action that the applicant would like to ask us to undertake? Or do you want us to take an action tonight?
It's up to the board, you know, whatever you want. I mean, I think that we've been dealing with the planning department for, our first meeting was September, for many months, satisfying their concerns on this, making the changes. I mean, they never told us there was a problem with this, so we've done everything they've asked us to do. So I don't know what more we can do at this point in time.
Okay.
Make a comment about the project.
Sure,
I'm
go
having
ahead.
a hard time supporting what I see here. I'm not opposed to developing that piece of property, but based on what we've said, and particularly Mr. Frichette's comments, I really don't think that that proposal works on this long, thin piece of property. And if you look at a memo from Judy, 2 lots with some comments about the project. Item 3A, it really kind of sums it up for me. It states, in order to maintain a 20-foot driveway to be used for site circulation and for fire and safety access, the driveway must remain clear of parked vehicles at all times. No visitor parking will be allowed, and residents will be required to use the garage spaces and the external spaces at the end of the driveway. This requirement may be difficult to enforce. That's a reality, I think, of what we're looking at.
Well, I mean,
Well, you know, I mean, that's impossible to, I can't sit here tonight and give a thumbs up to this project. I would like to see the developer come back with something that works on that long-term piece of property better than that. That's where I'm at this point.
I'm sorry, Dick, am I interrupting? Or were you?
give me 2 minutes with Mr. Burge, okay? Can I speak with him for a minute?
Something so small like these would actually be a smarter option. Both of these projects, none of those are townhouses, right? They're all these like first-story units, second-story units, and third-story units, right? They're flats.
They're all little, huge apartment buildings turned into condos.
But each of the units are flats, right?
Yeah.
The beauty of the DPD, the DPD is going to do their very best to help make the commercial with the townhouses in the back, the very best commercial with the townhouses in the back that it can possibly be. But the bigger question of that, whether or not to do that, it's not really the DPD's place to say, no, that's the wrong thing. It's ours. The DPD, that doesn't really
If they had this other street, it would be a much better project.
Yeah. Yeah.
They could put it up buffer here.
They could grade a little more smoothly so we don't have a 9-foot retaining wall. Boy, it's a tough site.
I know why they in
This is here, built another building, expand this for a nice consideration for each homeowners.
Huh? Come back.
You could put a second building and have this be a 2-building project, but this is a 2-building project.
I've been in front of this board enough to know where everything's going, so we just had a discussion. We'd like to put it over 30 days and try to kind of look at Joe Boyle's idea about separation, if at all possible, if it can be done. I don't know if it can be done, but we'd like to look at that and to see if it'd be more, fit in better for the neighborhood, if that's all right with you. I think that's what you were getting at, Mr. Boyle, when you asked me.
Yes.
But it's his decision, so I had to ask him.
Yeah, and you do know this board, and you know that we don't try to, like some communities, we don't try to reduce numbers of units just for the sake of reducing numbers of units. But if, as you're looking at these different designs, it seems to me it is reasonably likely that you don't end up with 6. If you can, that would be great. That would be an impressive design feat. But if addressing these concerns means that you don't end up with the number 6, that's I'd be okay with that. I think the board would be okay with that.
Yeah, well, we've come down from 7 to 6, so we
Right.
want to look at it and see if we can fit it in a little better.
Right.
I think that
That's
makes sense.
that's what the board would like us to do.
Yeah.
I would also advise to take into consideration Mr. Frichette's idea, or ideas as well, about maybe thinking about a mixed-use project, which is more traditionally a mixed-use project, commercial, residential above commercial. Maybe that can work better for you, too. There are a number of options here. I thought there were some very interesting ideas there as well.
I
I
mean,
would look forward to seeing something else.
We can look at it. I just think that if we did that, it'd be more traffic for the neighborhood to do it that way. But we'll be glad to look at it if, with your approval, if you can continue it.
Mr. Chairman, with that, I'd like to make a motion to continue for 30 days.
Yeah, see you meeting in January.
January 1st.
Actually, I got it right here.
Oh, yeah,
I have the.
we have on your schedule.
Is the January meeting set the second?
Motion to continue it to the January 5th, 2015 meeting.
Sure.
I'll second the motion.
And I would also like to, if we could, refer to the law department regarding the question of the setbacks of the residential dwellings, or in the residential use in the SMU zone. I think that needs to be clarified for the board, for petitioners coming forward, for staff, and for possibly a rewrite of the SMU zone, because I think that's a flaw.
Setback.
As we sit here this evening, if that's discovered that that is correct, that's a flaw. And I think that needs to be addressed.
Can I just ask one more favor in that respect? If you're going to do that, I would like to get an answer to that as soon as possible,
I would
because
agree.
that would depend on
What you end up doing, yeah. No, I
how we
think that-
design it.
Yeah.
If we don't have enough time, then we just continue it again.
res-
But I mean, I think that's important
Yeah, I think it's
to
huge.
what we do. I mean, if
Now, the only question I have on that is, the law department can give opinions to the planning board, but they don't necessarily give opinions to the applicant.
well,
I'm just, from past
I
experience.
think in the spirit of cooperation, we've cooperated all along with the
No, I'm-
planning
I'm
department.
just saying,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
they've
they can
told-
give it to her, and she can tell us what they say.
Yeah, we're past it.
But I mean, they've told us that in the past, and I can think of a perfect example of that, when we had the zoning on the dormitory use.
Yeah.
And the law department says, we're not gonna tell the applicant what our opinion is, so they can use our opinion against us when it goes before the court. So they said,
Well, I
we
mean,
have a
I
right to
think
get an
this is-
opinion from the planning board, but they don't have a right to give the opinion to the applicant.
But, I mean, if they're gonna say that
I hear you.
their interpretation is this,
I'm just
and
telling you what
you're
the-
gonna go with that, so therefore I know
Oh, I hear
that
you.
you're not gonna
Oh, I hear
approve it. So if we're gonna redesign it, I wanna know where we're
I'm
going.
just telling you what the law department has told us in the past. I'm not saying if it's right or wrong, I'm just
I
telling
mean,
you what
I've
they,
dealt with you guys too long, you know.
yeah, but I'm just
try
telling
to
you what the law department
cooperate.
has told us, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and we can ask them either way, but, I mean, this, I think, would be different because it goes to our chart. I mean, it's a table of uses, where the other thing was a little broader. It wasn't
Yeah.
just a table of uses.
Yeah,
It
and-
had a lot more other issues to, but, I mean, if we get that question answered quickly,
Yes.
we will have them, obviously, let them know that
Mm-hmm.
the applicant would like to know too, to help redesign the site plan before it comes back. And I understand it.
And to that point, Mr. Chairman, that's why I put that in the form of a motion with the continuance, as a request from the planning board.
Okay.
And second.
So we have a motion to continue.
And a second?
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion's approved. Good luck. We'll all be back here on January 5th, 2015. Happy holidays and good,
We'll be in touch.
thank you.
That was good.
Yes, we should give this stuff to Judy.
There are some things you don't swallow.
What's that?
There's some things you don't swallow.
Wood Street. This is.
Okay, moving along on the agenda, the next matter is under new business. This is 150 Wood Street, discussion of site plan review decision. Discussion of the traffic mitigation requirements, the site plan approval issued on January 23rd, 2014. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Gregory Curtis. I'm attorney with Goldman and Curtis here in Lowell. I'm here representing my client, Kazanjian Enterprise. Also with me is Ken Cram from Bayside Engineering. And we were before the board back in January when the board approved the development of the site at 150 Wood Street. At that time, there was some discussion towards the end of that meeting that talked about the implementation of traffic lighting, pedestrian crosswalk, and other improvements that were taking place at the Wood Street property, 150 Wood Street at the intersection of Westford. At that time, there was talk discussing the cost involved, and we had an estimation that the cost was going to be around $25,000. We thought possibly it could go as high as 30, but at that time, we did not have exact items, even though Aaron Clausen at the time said he had particulars as to what the city was needing to do at that location. A lot of it was going to be performed by the city because they were doing repaving, recurbing, siding, sidewalks, and some striping of that area. It was on the agenda to be taken care of, and the work has been, most of the work has been completed, I think, by the city over the course of the last summer. Where we've come into a problem at this point, and we're before you, is we received a response from Joe Genowitz at the department indicating that the cost for what the city is looking for the contribution from my client is over $48,000. So it's escalated from the original 25 to 30 in that vicinity to 48,000. And I think it comes as a result of, and I want Ken Cramp to come up to explain, the additional work that the city's looking for. It seems to be additional work that they're looking for that location that has increased, and also requirements that work be brought around certain areas that need to be addressed. So I'll bring Ken up and he can discuss that, the more particulars of the engineering matters. Thank you.
Unfortunately, Ken Cram, Bayside Engineering. When I left my office, I had little handouts to give each one of you, and unfortunately, I left my briefcase in the office because I had other projects and everything in my hand. And I was just wondering if I have all the plans here, if I could approach the board.
Sure.
Since we have no members of the public here, maybe I can just show you right at your desk.
Yes, please.
And be a lot easier.
Could you just make sure you use a microphone?
It's portable. Am I on? Yep. I feel like Jay Leno. Here is a copy of the original plan that we received from the planning department back when we started doing this project. This plan was done by VHB for the original signalization of the intersection. Back around 1994 was when this plan was drawn. When we went through the process, and I had my discussions with the previous city engineer, Eric Eby, he had indicated to me what he was looking for was updated detection for the intersection, what we call the Aldis signal detection, which is you're probably familiar with that. It's the overhead bell type video camera detection with adding the pedestrian heads to the existing crosswalk that is there now. At that time, that was the only crosswalk that we had discussed. Looking into the way the decision is written, however, crosswalks becomes plural crosswalks, but we had never seen crosswalks. So what we had, and as part of our plan work, we developed the concept plan that was used during the public hearing process and showed the striping that was proposed along Wood Street, but it did not show any of the crosswalks at that time. But it was based on the original plan. However, when the city did its great job, and this is a plan that I got from the engineering department itself, this is what was actually close to what was built, hand-drawn by one of the city's engineers, where they came in and they built the new pedestrian ramps, but they're in a new location on the Wood Street side. and they added pedestrian ramps on the Westford Street side, which unbeknownst to us, I was not aware of. And the red line here is the approximate limit of where the paving stopped. So when we got this plan, they said, okay, we don't want you to, when you put in the conduit that has to go across the road to get to the new pedestrian head that has to be over here now, we don't want you tearing up this part of the road. It's just been resurfaced. So you have to go around, which is what this blue line is here. So we took this plan back. The first plan, we had gotten the estimate from Electric Light, who does a lot of work here in the city on its traffic signals.
Can I just interrupt just a second? This isn't the second here, but is the project over here?
The project is over here, correct.
We're not talking here, we're talking here. Okay.
We're talking the whole intersection.
Yeah, okay. But this is what you're talking with the conduit and, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
So
Is that to get to that present damage control panel? There's a control panel somewhere that got damaged.
that would be the existing box, which is
It's
right
over
about
there.
here.
Okay. So that's just new.
So what we did was we redrew this. This is the plan that we then sent off to Electric Light, where we showed the new conduit going around the area of pavement. And what was different from the first estimate, because now we have a second crosswalk, is we have 2 new pedestrian posts here. The additional conduit, which we had to run a end around, so to speak. With the relocation of this pedestrian ramp here, there is now no longer a post to put your pedestrian head on. And to be ADA compliant, it has to be within 5 feet of the crosswalk itself. So we have to have a new post over here. And similarly, as looking at this one here, it became 6 1/2 dozen the other on this side, on our site side. Whether we take this post here and move it, or we simply keep that post and put in a new pedestrian post here. We decided, just to relocate everything. And so this we sent off to Electric Light, and this is when we got back the estimate for over $48,000.
Lisa, do you want to comment, please?
I didn't know if it was my turn.
Sure, no problem.
Take it.
Thank you very much.
The plans of relocating some of the curbing, widening this, was made possible due to, I want to say, a land swap, slivers of land along this side of the property and that side. So the applicant knew of our project to do this, that we couldn't do it without that land swap. So it's something that there'd been little conversations over the years, but it was never really possible. This project his project made our widening possible. So they knew what we were going to do. We couldn't do it until this project came along. This is out of sequence of my thoughts, but you had just mentioned it, where he said 6 of 1/2 dozen of this pole. The pedestrian signal has to be within so many feet of the crosswalk.
Right.
So they pretty much had to relocate it. They couldn't just leave it there. Or they couldn't use the old pole. It had to be closer to the crosswalk. The locations of the crosswalks and everything is based on the lane alignments with the new alignments of the curbing and the widening. So that also was not new. The equipment that was needed, Eric Eby had gone through and done a listing of what needed to be done. He was at previous meetings with you people. I wasn't,
Yeah.
but I have talked to him about it. And he said he was very explicit on what needed to be done. So I had another thought and I lost it.
It's okay.
We can keep going and it'll come back.
Yep.
All right, keep talking.
That's quite all right.
We'll come back.
Sure.
As Lisa has described, that was the process. However, 2 things come to mind. Engineering plans were never drawn for this set of widening. So there were no plans to go by. And secondly, if Mr. Eby had developed a detailed list of the items required, we never saw them. and I do not recall them as being in the decision or any of his comment letters.
Not having been at the previous planning board meeting, but I do know that others have reviewed the conversations that were held. And I was told, it was explicit that whatever is needed for those signals has to be put in.
And Judy, you said you reviewed the tape from the meeting? I know you weren't present with us on staff, but you did speak out with Aaron Clausen, and you listened to the tape a couple times?
Yes, I did listen to the tape, and it was stated by Eric and by Aaron at the meeting that the list of what needed to be done was very specific and was known by all parties, exactly what needed to be done.
There were multiple crosswalks, plural, included in the description in that discussion in that meeting?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I also reviewed the meeting. I just looked at the tape this afternoon. I went back through the whole tape, and towards the end of the video, it does talk about what we need to do with regard to that. We never had a specific list from Aaron. That was left open, and this whole matter of the costs involved was left open, and even Mr. Fischett at the time said, if you need to come back to discuss this, we'll come back and discuss it. But there was no specific list of items that we could have left that night with to present to the electric light to give us a figure. It wasn't until we received that plan of all the improvements that we were looking at that we were able to determine what the cost was going to be. And I don't think we would have underestimated that cost by $18,000 at the time if we had known exactly what was there. And I know we talked about pedestrian heads, and we talked about the crosswalk. We talked about doing some land swaps with the city for some of the land. But Engineer DeMayo's letter from the 22nd or the 21st indicated how much work the city was doing, and that was already on the agenda to do, whether it was sidewalks, paving, widening, the sight line being corrected so we could do these land swaps to make the sight line better. But there wasn't a definitive as to what was the requirement for all the signaling, and now the course, of course, having to, now that the street's been paved, to go out further and have to run conduit out further at a substantial cost.
I'm sorry. No, okay. The letter he's referring to was by the transportation engineer, Eric, and not by me. One of the bullets on the second page, 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth one, first bullet says, in addition to the vehicle detection upgrade, it is recommended that the proponent provide pedestrian signal heads and push-button activation for pedestrian crossings. So it is plural there. And on the first page, 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth bullet, where it talks about the work I just mentioned, the city is willing to undertake the repaving, widening, curbing, and sidewalk, the work that the city has done. I looked up, I had my staff look up in the records. We don't track our projects by street. So this is purely an estimate. But for this work, we had a contract, just about $2 million that we did 9 streets. Some of them longer than, some of them shorter, some of them had sidewalks, some of them didn't. So this is a ballpark, but $200,000 is what the city has already spent for our piece of improving this. I can get you a more accurate number, but that was a 15-minute perusal.
Also, my memory, if it serves me correctly, was I know when they threw in the cost of the 25 to 30 to fix the certain things out there, we said to install the equipment, or they can do it on their own. The question was because they could do it cheaper. And then at that time, we asked Aaron if the city has seen those estimates yet, and the answer was no. We had no idea at that point in time.
Right.
Because the applicant indicated that night, but staff, planning board, no one saw what those estimates were. So I think that's why we didn't indicate that, for the cost, If they could do it cheaper, because the city has to put it out to bid, we had discussion on that, and they said if they could do it cheaper, if not, they could put the money up to that, but I remember very clearly that we did not see the cost analysis, and that was a figure that they came up with that night without anybody in staff seeing it. I do remember the discussion also came up about what was the box that was hit by the motor vehicle? So we're not even talking about that cost, right?
Over there, yeah.
Because that was hit by the motor vehicle, so that's not even part of this cost, right? Okay.
No, that was not part of the decision. That was discussed because it needed to be
And they were asking that
updated.
we make you pay for that, right? And we said we wouldn't hold you to that, because it wasn't your doing. If I remember correctly, it was hit by a motorist who wasn't identified, so therefore there's no way to collect insurance. So we did not hold you responsible for that, even though we could have. Because we can make you do off-site improvements to better your project if it's in a certain radius, in this case, Lawrence.
Right, and in good faith at the time, we thought that 25 and going up as high as 30,000, and the figure of 30,000 is written right into the decision.
And that was your estimate, not an estimate that us or the city had sought. We never received that estimate. You never gave it to us. You never gave it to staff. You said you thought that was it, 25 to 30. So we used that as the estimate provided by the figures that you presented to us, without any materials from anybody in the city seeing those. Correct?
Well, I agree with
That
that,
was
but
your
the
figure,
other,
not ours.
the other question was, we have
You
the
didn't make it
traffic
pay for it.
engineer, and I think there was a little bit of miscommunication as to exactly what the requirements were gonna be. If you read in the decision,
I've read it.
it's not that accurate the way it's written. It doesn't say 4 pedestrian heads. It says intersections of Westford and Wood. Well, it is the intersection of Westford and Wood. We thought there was gonna be 2 pedestrian heads, and all of a sudden, you look at the plan, and what the city's requiring is basically 4. It's 2 complete crosswalks, one at Westford, one at Wood, and everything else that goes with it, and running conduit after the fact that the work had been done out there, so it's going to be more expensive to do it after the paving has already been completed.
Now, can I ask the question, is the 48,000, is that if the applicant does the work, or is that if the city does the work?
The applicant.
The applicant, that's, okay, so we've already established that would be the more economical way of doing it, and it's $48,000, okay. Now, your area of expertise, given the mitigation measures that were being recommended by the traffic engineer, how effective would it be if we did the improvements to this intersection and not do it to this intersection here?
If we don't, well, the pedestrian ramps are already in. If we don't do the signalization, if we just do what we did back here, we're probably back around $30,000.
But
Because we
what's the
still
effect,
need,
what is the effectiveness of it? At the end of the day, it's about, again, my approaching this whole section of the city is, we've had some major projects come before us, and at least my approach has been, at the very least, when we approve a project, we make sure it doesn't make the situation any worse. And in some instances, it's improved the situation, much to the surprise of residents even. So my question is, if this is not done as a package, have we effectively addressed the traffic mitigation issues? Well, I'm going to start with this gentleman and then...
well, with the mitigation package that we have agreed to, let's say our $30,000 balloon, yes. It's just the addition is one additional crosswalk effectively, which was not included originally in our estimate.
Okay.
So, and I'm sorry, I didn't understand the answer, so if we...
His answer is yes, my answer is no.
I could have actually detected that. But I'm assuming that the video detection would be at both intersections?
This is one intersection.
Well, at this
Would be
particular...
mounted on top of this mast arm here, probably.
And that would service both these intersections?
Right,
Okay.
because it is a single camera, it is a fisheye lens that sees 360.
Now, are we in agreement with that, Lisa? Okay. So then what we're talking about is the pedestrian access. Is that what we're talking, right?
Correct.
Okay. So this and just, I'm thinking out loud. All right, this is a direct connection to the site. We have all these residential units here. We have a car dealership over here, some commercial. We have more residential and then commercial development here. This ties it directly to the site. Somebody crosses here, we've got the old landfill here. We've got basically nothing here.
There is a sidewalk here.
Yeah, oh, I understand, but as far as...
Oh, no development, correct.
And then what is designed here to allow people, if they get over here, to get over to the site?
Nothing.
Nothing. So what are we gaining here?
We're losing. The issue for me is ADA compliance at this corner.
Okay.
About 3 years ago, we installed new handicap ramps on both sides. So those were reinstalled when the new curbing went in. And right now, there's no crosswalk to go with those ramps. Now, there have been 2 different handicap people who have sent letters into the city council asking for this crosswalk to be, that's why we did it 3 years ago. There's some building not far up on Stedman Street, there's some handicapped people that live there, and they've got motorized wheelchairs, and they work over towards Market Basket. I don't know which building they work in, but this is their route to work. They're not on this side, they're on Stedman Street side, and they come this way, and they were using this to cross over. So without it, these people are back to not having a way to get across.
Wait, there was prior, I want to make sure I understood what you just said. There was prior, a year before this project came in, there was a crosswalk there.
Yes.
And this is simply maintaining a crosswalk there as opposed to there being one fewer crosswalks.
This discussion is not about adding a new one. This is about replacing one that was there prior to the project.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I have a question.
There was a sidewalk here that was...
Yeah, there is, it's there
Right.
now.
New sidewalk that's coming in, so anybody that's here, down and use this crosswalk to get to the, because there's no sidewalk
Correct.
on the new property.
Right. It's even with the land swap and the sliver of land, it's still narrow. We couldn't fit sidewalk on both sides.
This is
So with the apartments and everything on this side, it made more sense.
and Market Basket on that side.
Everything on that
Right.
side.
So regarding the documentation, I think that plays an important part here. When these discussions were originally taking place and the $30,000 was being bandied about, there was no engineered drawing to base that on.
Correct.
And subsequent to that, the scope of work changed and it expanded, and now we have a real number to work on,
A second number.
a second
They were
number of
both based on-
48,000.
Correct.
So there's real, very uncomfortable because there's no good documentation to give us a baseline. So I'm not sure where, you know what I'm saying?
What?
You make a decision or have a discussion like that, you usually have some kind of a print you're looking at, and you agree with a scope of work that's being described both in a print and in writing, and we never had that, and that's where the 30,000 came from, just a discussion,
Yeah, but
comments from people.
the 30 was their proposal that we never saw.
And we could.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, we didn't have,
That's true.
staff never had a chance to say this could change.
Yeah, right.
They picked that figure.
Okay.
You know, it wasn't like, when we knew the work that the city was gonna do was gonna change a lot of this, and a lot of it was to benefit the project.
A lot of it's just unpredictable.
Benefits everybody, actually.
Yeah, okay.
And Mr. Lockhart, if you recall, we could have continued the project out another meeting to allow those details to be worked out and those numbers to be made more exact, and then submitted and then brought before us for us to consider specifically. We could have taken that option, and we didn't.
We gave them the option to come
Let
back.
the, unless my memory fails me, we acted that night as opposed to kicking it out another meeting at the behest of the applicant. Applicants like to get their permits, and they don't like to be continued and continued and continued. And so we decided, as we often do, that
rather than actually settling all of those details and having them be specifically written into our decision, that we were going to issue one of these conditions that says that puts the ball in the court of City Hall, and to come to an agreement. We do this with landscaping plans, we do this with facade plans, we do this with engineering issues, and this is one of those cases where we did this with engineering issues. Yeah, and lo and behold, when they got to the level of detail, there were surprises. Well, that's what it means when we kick it to City Hall to work out the details. It means that there are still details to be worked out which we don't know about, which are going to come up in those discussions.
Alan Kazanjian from Kazanjian Enterprise. I remember the meeting somewhat. Ken Cram has been talking to Eric Eby constantly, probably at least a half a dozen times, and we gave Eric the number. We had $22,000, I think, from the electric light. Is that correct, Ken? In that range. So we offered to give you $30,000 in case the city wanted to do that project. It would more than cover, because it would be a little bit more money for the city to do it. And if we could do it, we'd save that money and bring it down to $22,000. That was a conversation at the time. Eric knew what we were talking about. We were at $22,000 at the time. Ken had mentioned to him a number of times. And we chose to go with the $30,000. And if we couldn't do it, the city would do it. And from 22 to 30,000 would probably cover it. With the city at the time would be a little bit more money than would be for us to do it on a private sector. So that's where we were at the time. And we wanted to cap it at the $30,000. And I remember talking to the board, and the board says, if there's any issues after that, come back and talk to us.
Right.
And now here we are with issues after that we didn't know about, and now that's why we're here.
Let me just address.
All right, so what's that? 18.
So if we go with what our vote was, number 10 says, "The city shall accept a financial contribution as offered by the applicant to facilitate traffic mitigation measures at the intersection of Wood and Westford Street, subject to the confirmation from the city traffic engineer that the proposal contribute $30,000 will adequately cover the cost of installation. Mitigation measures include installation of video detection equipment for all through and turning movement approaches from Wood and Westford Street." Okay. And then we have installation of pedestrian signal heads and push-button activation for pedestrian crossings at the Wood and intersection, the Westford intersection. So wouldn't that cover that vote? What's ambiguous about that? That, asking us what we voted, yeah.
That didn't include the
With the
cross.
two pedestrian heads, one on each side, the sidewalk coming in, we weren't anticipating two more pedestrian heads here on Westford Street to cover crossing at that location. I think we based our cost on that, the original 22, bring it up to 30 to cover some incidental costs or changes. We want to work with the city, we want this to be a safe location. I think if it needs to have another walkway here, what we're asking is, what can we do to get the city's input and the developer's input to resolve it? You know, we don't want to put the city on the hook for the entire cost. They've done a lot of improvements here, and we're very appreciative, and it's a beautiful site, the way you drive in now, the way the roadway is, but if in the mind of engineering and the transportation department that they need that crosswalk here for people going down and coming this way, and, you know, possibly there's a fair resolution between both developer and city. I know it's gonna cost money on both ends, but we'd like to resolve it and get it moving. We have a building here that's almost complete, that we're looking to gain occupancy by February, and we'd like to have all this in place, so that,
If we knew it was going to be a crosswalk here, we would have brought that up in the meeting at that point in time. We would have caught after the fact that this crosswalk was going to be in effect. We had no idea about it.
bring out this conduit, have it out further and bring it back around so we don't disturb the new paving, which I guess ends at this location. I don't know what point it is.
How much extra cost is that bringing to that?
The conduit
Yeah,
versus the rest of the
yeah,
equipment?
yeah.
I don't know, but conduit's usually a lower priced item than the equipment for the pedestrian heads.
That's designed specifically for people coming down Westwood Street on this left-hand side as we're looking at it, to cross to the other side.
Well, there was never a sidewalk on this side.
No, but there is now.
There is now.
Is that
There's a sidewalk
is that the
all
proper
around.
location for the crosswalk? Can it
Be
be,
the logical.
can it be further up Westwood Street
No, you
to get to that side of Westwood?
take this one and move it over here.
Yeah, and then.
Yeah,
Typically, you don't
Nobody
want
wants
a
a
mid-block
mid-block
crosswalk. Cars are expecting to stop in this
yeah, I
location. They're
suppose
not
so.
expecting to
It's
stop
an
here.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
There are times when it's okay, this would not be one of them.
Yeah, I hear you. So,
It seems to me that this is very much relevant and appropriate mitigation directly related to this project, which we would have, which is an expression of our intent when we considered the project. It's covered by the language in item 10 there. And quite frankly, this particular applicant has gotten out of doing a lot of the mitigation that would likely have been required in this project because he lucked out to do this project at the same time the city was doing its own project in the same location.
We agree that it's all being done at the same time. What we weren't aware of was the fact that there was going to be another crosswalk
Yeah.
and the installation of pedestrian heads and all the costs involved with that. At this location, there's a little bit of miscommunication, possibly the town, maybe a week later, we would have had all those numbers, but we didn't have this plan. We didn't have this indication that there was going to be a crosswalk there, and when it was submitted with all the proposed changes, you know, electric light said, well, we can do it, but this is going to be the cost. We had no idea that if you take this out of the equation, you are back down at the $28,000 to $30,000 level. So I guess with this all said and done, with the pads and everything else that's in there and the lighting and the pedestrian heads, you're talking maybe $15,000 or $16,000, $17,000. That's what brings it up.
Now, you're not being aware of the details of what the city was going to require as its mitigation, this point you just made. Now, is that a legal point about what is required, or is that sort of a fairness point?
We were working with the city at the time. We had several meetings, Aaron, several other people, the traffic engineers. We were never presented with a specific plan. Nobody, maybe it's our fault, maybe it's the city's fault. Nobody had a specific plan as to what was going to happen. We were talking about who was going to be making left turns and right turns and widening out the roadway to make it safer. And we definitely knew about this crosswalk. We definitely knew about the handicap ramps, pedestrian heads and all that. We knew that. But this throws another whole cost into the project. And, you know, maybe it would have been something that the board would have recommended at the time, but we would have had an idea that, hey, it's another $15,000 or $18,000. Can we work with the city to do this? This is a private contractor that has spent a lot of money. The city was going to do this work anyway and correct all this, and we have gone to the extent to put a nice development in here, do some land swaps to straighten out the road, which we're still trying to do with the legal department, putting in sidewalks, and I think it's a great project, but I think it's a big
We work hand in hand with.
From our perspective, another $18,000 to add this in. If we had known about it from the beginning, we could have talked about it or had, you know, maybe we should have had the proposal out there to electric light long before we finished with the meeting, so we would have known exactly, had a pretty good ballpark of what it was gonna be.
Date of decision.
It's the 23rd.
January.
Our
Wednesday, the
decision.
22nd.
but then it wasn't until August that you sent us anything. So yet, we have been working together quite well on all of this, but there was such a long delay between January 22nd, when Eric's comments were January 31st, and the planning board, and it wasn't until August and September that anything was given to us, showing what the numbers were, so.
Well, when we received the numbers, we received the approval. When we started doing the work, the city had not started their work out there until the springtime. Then they started doing the work on the roadway, putting in the curbing and the sidewalks. At that point, we had information from Aaron or from the department which we sent out to get bids on. It takes a little while to get a bid. It doesn't happen overnight. And the numbers came back, and as soon as we got those numbers back, we contacted
Sent a letter to me,
Yeah.
it's September 24th.
the state, okay, let's talk about this. And we've been trying to, we've been discussing it ever since. It's not like we swept it under the rug. We want to resolve it. We just think, hopefully the city can contribute something. If they want to keep this in here, let's contribute, have the city contribute something, and maybe the developer can, and we can
So what would you offer for mitigation?
talk to my client.
No, well, all right, well, if you're saying you're gonna offer, they're gonna offer, let us know what the offers are. Maybe can, I don't know. If not, if not, I think the motion what we voted on covers it. If you look at all the language, I think, in here, it talks about the crossings, it talks about the lights, and it's part of the motion. I think the motion itself is clear. As I said, by number 10, I think it covers both sides. It covers your thing. It talks about the video detection. It talks about the signal heads. It talks about the activation of pedestrian crossings at Wood and Westford Street. I think it's all covered in the motion. Technically, if you think technically, look at the motion, I think the motion is correct.
Wood and Westford Street.
Mm-hmm.
We have the crossover, we have the pedestrian heads, which is
Yep.
plural.
Yep.
But I don't know if it
Mm-hmm.
also covers this. Did it say 2? Did it say 4? Did it, there's a little gray area there, and I know.
I would just say when you put the plural down, it covers the vote, but that's my opinion. If you read, by reading the decision, I think the decision is adequate for the city. So that's my opinion legally, by being an attorney and looking at it. I know all lawyers are going to disagree on it, but I think by number 10.
Generally, you're right.
That 10, if you look at the 10 on the bullet, I think it covers everything. And like I said, that figure came up, you guys proposed that figure that night. And we wanted to move it along, I understand, I understand, that was your proposal, that we didn't have copies to look at. This was something you said, we gave you an out, said you can come back if need be. I'm just saying, so, if you have something for us to consider, the board may consider it. If not, you can deal with the city departments all you want, but the bottom line, the hook's on us as the planning board. We have the final say.
Yeah.
I know things are being changed. A lot of things helped the project out. But the city did a lot of improvements to help your project out. You're looking at a cost at one time of moving the house, which I'm sure would have been a lot more than $18,000. And, I understand you didn't understand that. I get that. We're not trying to stick it to you unless we, yeah. Yeah, Yeah, oh yeah, it is. It's come along nice. I go by there a lot. Yeah. It is, So the question is, how do we try to resolve it? That's what I would ask you, what do you have for?
Well, if we go up another $5,000 to $35,000, that's,
Can we get it done cheaper? Is there a way to get a different bid on it, or is there a way to get something?
Maybe that's an alternative.
I have nothing to contribute.
You got one bid, right?
Actually, for some reason, I sent it out to 3 companies, only one sent the bid back.
Oh, well, maybe that's where we ought to go with it.
Because we do work in the city.
A lot of our lights are electric light.
Oh, so you only have one person who would do the work anyways?
Yeah, oh, all right. So
Yeah, like cable.
Again, if we were talking $3,000 or $4,000, $5,000, I would be standing here right now.
Right.
Yeah, I understand.
Sure it is.
To deal with, and the fact that I think possibly we jumped the gun a little bit, and we had known, and the plan was drawn and presented, and we talked about this, and whether this was needed along with the walkway and the crosswalks here.
But
That would have been an issue for discussion at the time.
Yeah, but the question was, when we did discuss it at the time, the question was, as you guys rightfully said, was the city is doing all this work, and we're gonna work with them on that. So, and you said a lot of things you could not be pinpointed down on yet until the city completed their work. Yeah. I mean, that was part of it because, yeah.
pedestrian lanes, 2 and 2,
Yeah.
not just 2
But I mean,
pedestrian lanes.
if you don't have them here, it doesn't go there, then neither of it works. So it's like, do you bother doing any?
It did work here.
No, but I mean, you can't have this light signalation working without this one over here. They come together, right? You have to have both of them to make it work, right? I mean, you just can't have one. So you just can't say we're gonna put in one and not the other.
Now, at the time, we had no idea.
Yeah.
Now, we definitely see it.
Yeah, I understand.
We're at this
So I mean,
meeting now, let's see if we can work something out.
but I'm saying, if you have one and not the other, then it doesn't work. Correct?
As well.
Is it possible to talk to your major tenant on the corner?
Who's at the bank?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say. It's kind of hard to
Well, I'm thinking about community input from the bank.
Discussion here, and it's not really a discussion with a private individual, private entity at that point. Unless there's another way to get a different bid, there's another company that can give us a bid, I don't know.
I think if we, in all honesty, come out that higher.
You don't want that then.
It happens, yeah.
The electric light knows the people. They know the intersection.
Lisa, do you have any recommendations for resolution, I mean, besides making them do it? Any ideas? I mean, I'm just trying to think about what way we can do to try to work things out. Yeah. No, I'm saying, Lisa, any ideas that you have that could help resolve some of the issues, or you think it?
I'll take it back.
Sure.
He can't hear you
Yeah.
unless you're talking.
Yeah.
I don't know the distance that the end of the new pavement is.
You know what that is, Ken, by any chance?
These are the VHB plans, these aren't the plans that
This is the approximate location. So that's,
like 20 feet
from where to where?
from where the post is. What would be this distance of the conduit? Is that about 20 feet?
I'd say 20, 25 feet, and then going across 16.
Well, you're gonna have to go across. What I'm thinking is I could let you cut into some of the asphalt so that you don't have to run 25 feet. That would shorten this piece and shorten that piece. But
So
the length of the conduit's a small part of the whole thing. And that, if you did that, then you gotta restore the asphalt, so I don't think that's gonna save you anything, so, I don't know.
Is this crosswalk in?
Crosswalk is in, yes.
What I was thinking is that, would it be possible,
Get this one, hopefully.
This one's on.
That one's on.
if this, and this is if this were to move a little bit further up Wood Street, it would A, shorten the pedestrian crossing length, and B, and this I need to phrase in the form of a question, might it allow a current pole to be used as opposed to the cost of installing that new pole? But now with this crosswalk, now hearing that the crosswalk is already, and ramps and everything are already in, it would probably cost more to move yeah, because that's already in. Okay.
I think he answered his own question.
This may not be the exact location, because these were the VHB plans. And there are this doesn't show the left turn lane that was installed for the project. It does, these are the pre-existing property lines, so this alignment is a little different today than, they drew these up a few years ago. I mean, they kept the island, we didn't keep the island. So there are nuances that they didn't pick up when they did these, this was 3 or 4 years ago they did this.
Have the handicap ramps been put in here already? Those are already installed? Those are already installed. So this was to change. Again, it's factoring in moving and changing curbing and everything else that was already here.
At least, I know we can't make a vote that causes the city to expend money. I know that the board doesn't have that authority, and I know you've indicated that we didn't have any funding available at all. Could there be possibly anything that just, I mean, I guess would it even require, could the city council do something? I don't even know if that's something that, as far as funds that could be available at all, or I'm just throwing something out there as a.
I'm not sure what, there is capital that the council
Yeah.
does allow us to bond for.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the latest news from Boston, if that's even going to be available.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the number one concern for me, from the perspective of serving in the capacity, is safety. In the design of that site, and that it functions the way it's supposed to, and I don't think anybody wants to have anything happen. And it was all because we were squabbling over the cost, but the cost is the real where the rubber hits the road for developers, and I mean, I get that. But we're trying to balance what was really, what was intended to mitigate some of the impacts of the development.
Is there any type of grant money that might be available that we could try to pursue?
Not for anything this small.
About the scope of the project that was being done?
That project's done, though. You can't get grant money for projects that are already done.
Was there grant money involved in?
No, that was Chapter 90 work.
Well, it's sounding to me at this point like if there's any possible solution which could mitigate the applicant's pain here, it's some sort of an engineering solution. And I don't think that any sort of an engineering solution is likely to come up at the planning board meeting. If there is, I would urge the applicant, get creative, see if there's some way that the city's needs can be met less expensively, and I would urge the engineering department to have to keep an open mind and see if they can come up with something creative. But my bottom line is that this is reasonable mitigation associated with the project. It's covered by our decision, and even from a moral perspective, even from a fairness and moral perspective, the city's done an awful lot that would have normally been required of the applicant already in terms of mitigation in the right-of-way.
Does the city have any leverage with the supplier? Maybe reduce the cost or renegotiate on behalf of the.
Any leverage with electric light?
Yeah. Where they can intervene and just talk to somebody and say, hey, we need some help here.
I don't know if we have leverage, but I suppose we could ask.
I think that's something we should pursue.
We can definitely do that.
I mean, if they're willing to kick in
Absolutely.
another 5,000, I think we ought to, in good faith.
We work with the city
Yeah.
also, but we just get blindsided by this cost that's more than double, almost double what we talked about. And it wasn't in our budget to do this type of work. Whereas chapter 90 money comes from the state, the federal government. The state, and if we knew that, in this case, maybe we could have got a little more of that chapter 90 money to take care of this sidewalk if we knew ahead of time that this was going to be involved and we had a plan or a price for this whole project. So I think there's a little communication problem on both our end and the city's end, and this is why we're here now. I want to thank the board for their time and their help, and we'll try to work this out. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we wish it was an easy solution, obviously. I mean, we don't want to stick you with 18 grand, Alan. I mean, it's tough. I mean, if there was an easy solution, I'm sure you wouldn't have to come back. I know, I mean, it's, I mean, you do good work, I mean, it's a good project, we want it to be done right, you
Yeah, it's
know,
coming along
and if there was
nice.
something easy, believe me, I mean, we'd be willing to work with you, I mean, that's why we're throwing any suggestions out there that, and I'm sure you spent more time on it than we have, since it affects your pocket more instead of ours. I mean, obviously, you said, how can we, you know, reduce this? I'm sure, you know, you have your attorney here, you got the traffic guy here, I mean, like, what can I do to, you know, bring this figure down? I'm sure you spent a lot of time on that. Yeah, you know, I mean, like, you know,
Yeah, but, maybe there is a technical,
Correct, on all the intersections?
yeah.
They supplied it, they didn't install it.
They installed it, installed it 2 or 3 times in some situations, because I used to watch them every day walking out of my office. They would put one pad in, and the next day they'd jackhammer it up and put another pad in, so the left hand didn't know what the right was doing at some point. Electric light, you know, if we can't get a figure from anybody else, then, you know, hopefully we can work with them and get this resolved. We want the safety issue, number one.
sure.
If that's gonna be what we need to do, and the pads have already been put in and the ramps, then let's see what we can do to get it rectified, because we have an ongoing business that wants to open, hopefully sometime in February, and we're getting to that point where we wanna complete it.
If there were,
Thank you all.
No, I mean,
and Lisa, thanks for coming tonight.
How do we conclude that?
We just put $200,000 in front of restaurants. We need contribution to make it safe for your customers.
How much do you think this project is? Is the total construction cost of it coming out, you think, when they do that?
I would say about
The whole project, thinking about the second building and the renovation of the house?
the banks, about 400,000. The other buildings,
Probably
300.
And then the house might be in the new one,
Yeah.
or less.
Didn't say working $250,000, so you get about $1 million.
okay, moving along on the agenda, we have, on the new business, we have a public hearing for zoning amendment. The planning board will hold a public hearing to hear all interested persons relative to an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Appendix A, therefore entitled zoning. The amendment would alter Section 6.1.10, Table of Dimensional Requirements for off-street parking by increasing the maximum curb cut from 15 feet to 20 feet in the following zoning districts: the SSF, the TSF, the TTF, and the USF zoning district. Is there anybody here to speak on behalf of the applicant? Hearing none, is anybody here in the public who want to be heard on this ordinance? Seeing that nobody present besides staff and planning board members, but it's still the public hearing, so any of those want to be heard in favor or against? In favor or against? In favor or against? Hearing none. Judy, I know you said this wasn't something that was brought by planning department. This came from what, the manager's office, we believe?
Yes.
Okay. And we had no, okay, so there's no one here to give us an explanation on what the reasoning is behind the request to change the curb cut? Not that you know of, right?
My understanding is that there are concerns from the development community that for new construction, single-family homes often require or have a double garage, and that a wider curb cut would be more fitting for new construction two-car garages would be better served by a 20-foot curb cut instead of a 15.
So that's why it's limited to these zones here, which is basically all residential?
Well, it's states these zones because of the table.
Oh, okay.
The table includes all 4 of those zones in that first row, in that top row. So there's not a way to take the suburban single-family and separate it out
Unless we have to do a major changeover.
unless that's what the board recommended on doing. We could put another row in and say this would be applied to the suburban single-family, which is most likely where you do get new construction of homes requiring 2-car garages. So it was put forth without considering that you would have to change the table, basically.
And that would, Mr. Chairman, that would be, as I look at this, that would be my recommendation, is that in the denser zones, I would not be in favor of this, but in the suburban single-family, I think that it would make sense to create another tier. And I certainly, I think I mentioned to Judy, I went around, if anybody has seen me measuring driveways, they'll know what. And come to find out, in a suburban single-family, a lot of the driveways in Pawtucketville anyways are 20 feet wide already. So that's.
Right.
Yeah. You know, but I think in the, like an urban single-family zone district, that's really tough. Because
Or the traditionals,
you know,
yeah.
it's a 3,000 square foot minimum lot size, so you're talking, you know, a good portion of your, potentially 700 feet of that, square feet of that could be driveway. You know, if it's 35 feet long and 25 feet wide, I think that, then you start to get, and then you've got the setbacks 3 feet from the building, and I think it creates a problem. So I certainly, you know, I that's what I started to look back at the lot size, the table, dimensional requirements, and I think in the, again, these are my thoughts here, on the TSF zone, it's 7,000 square feet. TTF, we start to drop to 6,000, we certainly could have a conversation on that, but then the USF, we dropped to 3,000. I certainly don't think it's adequate there. I don't think it's something that would be fitting. Then we're talking mainly a home with pavement.
Right.
What we end up with.
You know, another, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Joe.
I definitely agree with the principle there. Having a wider curb cut in a suburban single-family district is not a big deal. There are reasons why we want a maximum curb cut, especially in the urban and traditional neighborhoods. In terms of exactly the solution, though, instead of adding another row, another option would be to simply take SSF, take it out of that row, and put it into the row with SMF, SMU, and RR.
It works. Right.
Now, that actually increases the maximum to 25.
Well, that might be, I think, well, again, that's interesting. Yeah.
It's page 51.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's. But I would prefer if as I went around a suburban single-family neighborhood in Lowell, they were mainly 20 feet, and I think that would be in keeping what's already in a lot of those those older suburban single-family neighborhoods. So I think that would be in keeping, and it would allow the new development to be in keeping with what is already in a lot of those the suburban single-family zone. I certainly, in the traditional, I certainly have some concerns with that, and I don't know how many two-stall garages are going up in a, you know, traditional two-family zone. I don't see that as too much of a demand.
You know, you're right. You're right, Jerry. The 25-foot maximum width for SMF, SMU, and RR, that's a curb cut to allow for two-way traffic, not a driveway.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Maybe that isn't the best idea.
I don't think that, you know, increasing it by 5 feet, the impact of that is going to be very significant. In the sake, to keep things simple, I would just increase it to 20 and keep things classified the way they are, at least for the present time. I'm totally in favor.
So would it be the suburban single-family be 20, increase to 20 feet, and then the traditional zones and the urban zone remain at 18, or?
Remain at 15.
15, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I could go with that.
Does that make?
Yeah.
Because Judy, what would you think? The SSF is where we'd really see those two-lane driveways of all of them?
Yeah, it would be.
I mean, the other three,
Yes.
I mean, when you're talking like they said 3,000, I mean, you know, you talk about all that
Yeah. you
driveway,
wouldn't have-
what do we get for runoff, you know? No, where's the water gonna go on 3,000 square feet? And if you have kind of a long driveway, like you said, but I mean, you know, when you have the bigger zones, you know, it's not really a big imposition, but to be, like you say, if you get 3,000 square foot, I mean, that's gonna make some areas in the city really tight, that's gonna prohibit building at all.
You could almost have a third of the lot be the driveway.
Yeah.
At that point.
I mean, then you're gonna lose open space. Right? You're gonna compromise open space until the kids are playing the driveway.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay for shooting hoops, but I mean, that's about it, you know.
You know, side-by-side cars parked in a driveway, in an active pedestrian neighborhood, it's really gonna, that would really degrade the pedestrian character, the walkable character.
So I guess I would, I would make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we'd make a recommendation to the city council to increase the curb cut on the SSF zone to 20 feet, and that the curb cut in the traditional single-family, traditional two-family, and urban single-family remain at 15 feet.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes yes. So hopefully that motion carries.
Now, in my experience on this board, what, typically on these zoning ordinances that are sent to us for public hearing, don't we usually just issue an up or down?
That was a comment I had, so we asked Judy about that, and Judy said they were looking for some feedback from the planning board, and they'd be willing to take recommendations this time.
Oh, okay, so that's really
And
more.
that was the first question I had, and Jerry and I discussed that prior to the meeting, so I'm thinking, it's either all or nothing. They said, no, they'd like to hear our feedback, what we think of the different areas, so having said that, I mean, my Judy, I mean, that's what,
Yes, yes.
Okay,
they-
excellent.
they want to hear our feedback, so I think by singling it out, you know,
Okay.
they're getting a little bit of our discussion. So, but like you say, usually it's
It is.
either yes, no, and
Right. Okay.
so, yeah. So, you know, and, you know, if they have any questions on it, you know, I can put in the decision, Judy, how, you know, we thought, the USF would be 3,000 square feet of land. If you're looking at a driveway, you know, so much of the whole thing is gonna be paved driveway. So we think when we have a bigger lot that's 7,000 square foot compared to something that goes down to 6,000, then only down to 3, the 3 really be creating, you know, mostly a driveway. And the chances are, in the USF, you're probably really not gonna see that type of building in that zone. It's gonna really prohibit a lot of development
Be a
in the
little
city.
more dense than that.
I mean, if it's a yes or no checkbox instead of, you know, any other special permit relief, it's one thing. If it just says no, then it's gonna, I think it's gonna, I think in cases that we anticipate, that's gonna be strict development completely. You know, you're gonna have a place come in and say, you know, we'd love to do this because of this new one, we can't. You know, and then sometimes you have small units that are 3,000 that sit there and never get developed because the restrictions we put them on them, it's not doable. The one for the 3,000, I think, is really a killer, as Jerry mentioned.
Yeah,
I mean, you
yeah,
know,
definitely.
if they want to look at this, you know, the ones that are a little smaller, the 6,000, that's something else, but at least they know what our thought process is and why we went with the bigger zone compared to the smaller zone. But I think the bigger zone is where you're gonna see the two-car driveways. I mean,
Right.
Yes,
in the USF, I don't think you're gonna get two-car garage on many of those lots.
And again, what sold it to me is going around measuring driveways
Yeah, that would
of,
convince you.
of developments from the 60s and 50s. They're really a 20-foot,
20 feet.
20-foot
Now.
cut, so.
You have one of those wheel rockers, or do you use a tape
I
measure?
use a tape measure.
Oh, the one with the wheel?
Yeah, you know, those, I didn't know if he had one of those. I know he measures a
That
lot
would
of
be
things in the
easy.
city.
Yeah,
We
but I
don't
thought that was
invest in one.
interesting. I think that's, that really just, it makes new development fall in line with the
Right.
existing.
So
Yeah,
hopefully,
no,
it's,
that-
you know,
Protecting neighborhood
if they
character.
consider that, hopefully that's
established
the intent,
character.
what they're looking for, so.
Too many
So
stories.
hopefully, they understand what the reasoning was on that, so. Okay, moving along, does any of the board members have any correspondences from any of the boards that they're on?
Yeah, I just want to
Sure,
mention
Rich.
one thing. We were talking about Wood and Westwood Street tonight. Our administrator on the historic board, Steve Stoll, is continuing to work with them in, which you may not realize, in a different capacity in terms of design of the whole intersection the buildings. I mean, it's not just about historical preservation. It's about making everything work together, both the old Bowers House and the new Lowell 5 Bank and he builds other commercial space. So he's working with them and giving them advice on design and materials and different things to make it all work together. I think it's important to follow that out. I know we said a long time ago we're going to continue, and he is on a regular basis.
Good.
That's all.
Okay. Anyone else? If not, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved. Motion is made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good night and happy holidays, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.